Go ahead.
pretty funny because mine is also about an imposter.
Oh, really?
And pretty much a fake person.
How the hell does this keep happening?
I don't know.
We did not coordinate this.
No. So
We have such good ESPN that we're like mind melded.
It's like Mean Girls where she's like, it's going to rain today.
That's literally what just that. Yes, exactly.
ESPN. Okay. ESP. So I have had this tab open. Again, I dug deep. So I'm really into Wikipedia, which is why these are all Wikipedia tabs. But this is about somebody named Princess Caraboo.
Princess Caraboo.
Yes. Princess Caraboo. So
okay.
Again, I'm going back to 19th century England. But no like rotting jaws or anything. It's more just about a big liar. So
I'm laughing because this was my last podcast, Musical Splaining, was just like every musical took place in 1800s England, which was like a running gag that I had with my previous host, Angie. So I'm just laughing that I'm like, it continues.
Wow.
I can't escape 19th century England, apparently.
No,
anyway, I'm sorry.
Because for some reason, everyone loves reading about it, me included.
Train wreck.
Yeah,
that's why so many train wrecks
are set in 18th century England.
Oh yeah, so many of them.
Dude, I went to a musical in Regent Park in London.
Why?
I know. I went and we watched, what's the one? Pirates of Penzance.
Oh, they were going to say Pirates of the Caribbean, which I didn't know was a musical, but I never saw Pirates of Penzance.
It's not, I
know.
I can't predict if you'd
like
it.
Yar, 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 we're pirates.
Pretty much.
That's kind of fun.
I zoned out. I don't even know what it's about. I don't know what it's about. I was like paying attention to like bird sounds. I'm like, well, I'm outside.
I understand.
And there was a lot of dancing and petticoats, and I was like, ooh. And I was into theater at the time, so I should have been paying attention. Anyway, sorry to make this about musicals.
No, I interrupted. I'm sorry. I just thought it was funny that I'm back in 19th century England again.
Hop into the whatever they drove, carriages. Okay, 1817. We're in the village of Almondsbury, England, and it's in Gloucester. Yeah, it's in the county of Gloucester. So, a cobbler and his wife found this woman just wandering around. And she was wearing what they called foreign and exotic clothes.
Oh, interesting.
She seemed out of it, disoriented, confused, like kind of, and she kept speaking in a foreign language that everyone's like, that doesn't sound real, because it wasn't. Spoiler alert. She spoke in this language, and they're like, "Oh, well, let's take her to a place called the Overseer of the Poor," which is the most 19th century English job I've ever heard.
Yeah, what is that?
So it's these people who are elected reluctantly to be in charge of poor relief, which is like making sure poor people aren't mostly misbehaving. It wasn't really about feeding them or taking care of them. Oh, it was about keeping them in place.
This is not like a welfare, social welfare thing. No. This is literally just to lecture poor people, being like, have you tried not being poor?
Have you tried not being crazy?
Yeah.
The guy in charge of the poor people in the county of Gloucester, where Almondsbury is a dude named Samuel Worrell.
Sam Worrell.
Sam Worrell.
Sam Worrell. I'm sorry, I'm just repeating everything.
Are you saying rural or rural?
The rural girl Sam Worrell.
The
Raja. Sam Worrell. I'm just going to say Sam Worrell like that every time.
Okay, Sam Worrell. Anyway,
Sam Worrell.
He had been elected the previous Easter. Every Easter, they elect the overseer of the poor, maybe because it makes them feel more Christ-like or whatever. But
yeah, that makes sense. I get it.
But it was mostly just there to keep social structure and social hierarchy under the guise of taking care of people. So this guy, Samuel Worrell, and his wife, who's American, which is kind of weird for the time, because usually, no, I'm not even going to go into that. That's a whole different tab. And neither, no, it's...
Just real quick, though, is it that the English didn't marry Americans at that point?
It's that rural English people didn't really marry outside of their county or outside of their area.
I see. They're very provincial in that way.
Not until later. Like a lot of times, like they would marry American heiresses or heirs to bring money back into the estates. But that was like really rich people. Like think of Downton Abbey. That's what the guy in Downton Abbey did. He married American.
Have not watched Downtown Arby's.
You don't have to, Downtown Arby's?
That's what Sarah and I always call it.
Don't eat at Downtown Arby's.
Downtown Arby's is not great.
Okay, so she was American, and she was like, even I can't understand this lady. And the only thing they could figure out was that her name was Caraboo. Caraboo.
Caraboo.
Boo. So here's where it gets like definitely, predictably more racist. Everyone's everyone's like, she must be Asian because she keeps saying nanas when pointing to a pineapple, which is, let me point out, English is the only language that has a word pineapple. Every other language has something on the form of nana or
ananas is in Farsi.
Ananas,
that's what you would say. Yeah. I was like, I'd be like, hey, I understand.
Yeah. Like, oh, pineapple. But they're like, she's not calling it a pineapple. She's calling it what Indonesian people call pineapples. They just picked a South Asian. Like,
you mean there's languages other than English? What the hell?
And the other reason they thought she was maybe Indonesian or Chinese is because she only sleeps on the floor.
What the hell?
Look, I don't. So Sam Worrell.
Sam Worrell.
He's like, well, I know what poor people look like, and this is a poor person. So I need this beggar to be arrested and taken to like the jail in Bristol, which is like.
Oh.
Anyway, so they arrest her, and she's the whole time she's just like talking in this other language, and like, everyone's like, "Whoa, who is this?" And while she's in jail, a Portuguese sailor was there for some reason, and he was like, "Oh, I understand her," and his name was Manuel, and he was like, "No, she's saying that she's a princess from an island called Havasu or Javasu in the Indian Ocean, and that she jumped overboard in a pirate boat. She was kidnapped by pirates, and then she jumped overboard in the Bristol Channel, hence washing up." Yeah. So this guy's like, "Oh yeah, I get it. She told me everything," and then we never hear about him again.
Wait, was she speaking Portuguese this whole time?
No.
Or did that guy just make it up?
I think he made all of that up. I mean, come on, you're in jail, you're bored. You're like, yeah, I'm gonna help this lady have a story.
I mean, that's 100% something that you and I would have done if we were arrested, because that's the way our brains work. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, actually, this lady, she's
you don't even know.
She's an outlaw, and she jumped off of. Anyway,
he just yes-anded the hell out of that situation.
No, or I think maybe she let him in on the secret. And
okay.
He maybe helped her, get out of jail that way.
Okay.
So, I mean, we never hear about him again. So who knows? Manuel, thinking about you.
Wherever you are.
I
hope you're doing well.
Whatever grave you're in. So after hearing that, the Worrells were like, $signs, Sam and his wife.
Yeah.
We're like, ooh, we're going to get her out of jail, and we're going to bring her back, and she's going to live with us.
What?
And she lived with them.
Do you want to kidnap the princess?
No, they just got her out of jail.
Didn't they want to? Okay. Where's the money sign here, though? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Because they want to get people to come see her.
Oh, I see. They're going to exploit her.
That was the thing. If someone was different, that was like money.
For interesting.
Normies. They were just like, this person has three nipples. Bring them in.
Right. It's like a circus freak showy kind of thing.
Come and look at the third nipple. Don't know why that was the thing that came to my head, but
hey, man, what's whatever was in your heart.
My heart is a third nipple.
It is my third nipple.
It's my third nipple. Anyway, so they're like, yeah, let's let her live with us. And for the next few months, people would come by and just look at this exotic princess, and because she could use a bow and arrow really well.
Interesting.
And she could fence, and she would swim naked.
So she's clearly she's upper crust if she's doing like fencing, right?
Well,
fencing is not like a poor people sport.
No, or
you got to be kind of rich to do fencing, I think.
Right?
I think so. I mean, at least I imagine that people who fence are like, I don't know anybody who's ever. Actually, that's not true. I have known people who have fenced, but they're not poor people usually. Yeah.
No, they're like very wealthy.
Yeah.
Well, she could fence, and she would swim naked in the rivers and stuff, and all the English people had to be like, "Oh, I don't like that," but really they were like, "Yeah,
yeah." That's really what they were. That's what Sam Worrell was charging for.
She also prayed to Allah. But she pronounced it Alawala?
Alawala? Alawala Bang Bang?
It was like some bastardization of an actual prayer.
Okay.
And so they were like, oh, she's from the Middle East or wherever, Indonesia. They just kept pulling out names like, oh, maybe she's this. She's just exotic.
Well, Indonesia is in the Middle East, as we all famously know. This is a correct fact. It's also, where was the other place they said that they thought she was from? China, you said? China, yeah.
Middle East, Indonesia.
China, Indonesia, Middle East. It's all one place together.
One big place, yeah.
Yeah,
it's
outside of
everything that's
England.
not England.
Yes.
Is all one place.
Everything outside of England also continues to be England if the English had it their way.
Everything outside of England is future England. She kept wearing exotic clothing. And then this doctor came around, and his name was Dr. Wilkinson. And I don't know what kind of doctor he was, but he looked at her and he's like, yep, she's Asian. Because apparently...
that was his diagnosis?
Pretty well. He looked at the back of her head and found a bunch of surgical scars that were like really rough. And he's like, only a quote unquote, I can't even say the word. Never mind. Only an Asian person, only an Asian doctor would do this.
Dear Lord.
And he used this thing. He's like, and I figured out her language too. It is Indonesian. I figured it out by using this thing called a pantographia, which is like an encyclopedia of known alphabets, which we haven't heard of it because it probably didn't even work.
This guy was also made up too.
Wilkinson, he's like, I'm going to go start a tech company.
Yeah. Was his name Reese Lewis? That was the name
oh
of the
my
doctor.
gosh, yeah. Turns out Wilkinson was wrong, and so was the pantographia. And after her portrait circulated in the papers, there was a woman who ran a boarding house who looked at the paper and went, that looks a lot like Mary.
Oh.
And she's like, something's not sitting right. That looks like Mary. And so she tells the Worrells, hey, that's not who you think it is. It's this lady named Mary who used to live here. And after that, it all fell apart.
Oh, no.
It turns out Princess Caraboo was a servant girl named Mary Wilcox.
Okay.
She was born in Devon to a cobbler, Devonshire, which is a little bit, it's like south.
How far is it from where they found her?
Southwest of Bristol. So not too far. Like she could have easily made the trip.
Give me a Bay Area reference point.
Oh, I want to say like 2 hours, like from San Jose to Sacramento.
Okay. All right. So she's from she's like originally from Sacramento, now living in San Jose.
Because every English, over there, they're like when I was living over there, they're like, you're driving to Scotland? Why? And I'm like, it's only 5 hours. And they thought I was insane. So
that's like we're in the same state.
Don't know. Actually, I think it's probably only like, people are going to be like, you idiot. How do you not know how to get from Bristol to Devonshire?
Listen, we'll open another tab about this on a future episode and figure out exactly the distance. I apologize.
I'm sure I'm wrong, but it wasn't like a big, long. Anyway, she hadn't been able to find another place to stay because she'd been hopping from boarding house to boarding house, which was very common in the day because people would usually leave their families if there wasn't much there to do, and they would go get jobs in bigger houses.
Okay.
And because I love censuses. I don't know if you knew that. I love Sensei. That's my go-to is to add I at the end of everything. Senses, like testes.
Senses.
But a lot of senses had boarding houses that were pages of people's names because I would find family members, they were at a boarding house. They must have just been stopping by for like a month or two. And it was very common to do that. And so she couldn't find anywhere to live. So she was like, I know what I'll do. I am going to pretend to be an Indonesian princess. So she invented her own language based on Romani and her imagination. So she made all of it up except for she threw some Romani words in there.
Interesting.
And she also created this elaborate backstory about being a princess. And the harsh-looking scars on her head turned out to be done by an English doctor.
Spoiler.
Who performed a botched cupping operation.
What the hell is that?
It's like putting cups on people's like bodies. Athletes do it. Have you ever seen those like athletes with big round like
shoulders?
I can't.
I only know cupping when they do like needling. Why am I drawing a blank? Acupuncture when they do cupping. That's not what you're talking about. You're talking about something else.
Part of it. Cupping could be like, I looked it up for a minute.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to say I know anything about it. But it gave her scars that they blamed on primitive doctors.
But it's not like a brain surgery or something.
No.
It was like, okay.
It's like putting cups on.
Okay. No. But I just think like, but I was asking though, because you said that she had the scar on the back of her head. For a second, I was thinking that like they took out part of her brain or something like that. But you're saying that's not the case. It was just like a sort of surface scar.
Pseudoscience. But yeah, it was an English doctor in a poorhouse hospital years before. So the press went insane. They were like,
what? English doctor bad, actually?
No, they were
Sam Worrell.
Sam Worrell. How did I know you would do something with the name Sam Worrell?
Because I'm an idiot.
Down and I'm like, he's going to do something with this name, and I don't know what.
You spend entirely too much time with me trapped behind a table. That's why.
We can leave whenever we want.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So the press went nuts. They're like, she's not real. And so it was like this huge thing. And everyone started making fun of middle-class people that were rural. They're like, these idiots fell for it.
Oh my God.
When literally anyone would have fallen for it. This is the same time when somebody like sewed together a fish and a monkey skeleton and called it a mermaid.
Right.
And everyone's
yeah, that's real.
Like, I think even like nobles were like, whoa.
It's getting out of control.
So the Worrells were like, oh, we're idiots. But Mrs. Worrell's American. So she's like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to send her to America and get her out of our hair. So she sends her to Philadelphia. And when she gets to Philly, Mary Wilcox is like, I'm not done with Princess Caraboo. I'm going to
Broadway.
I am going to do this until I can't. So she tries performing as Princess Caraboo in America, and nobody cares.
What? She
goes to New York, and everyone's like, whatever. And then she goes back. She goes back to England, tries to perform in London, where everyone's like, you again? No, we know you. And then France and Spain, where again everyone was over.
How is she getting money to go all these places? Who's booking her? That's what I want to know. Does she have an agent?
I think she probably. You know what? I don't know.
She's like, she gets signed to CAA in the 1830s. They're like, we're gonna get you a Netflix deal. She's big on Twitter.
Get on TikTok.
She's just on TikTok.
Racist Princess Caraboo on TikTok. So finally, she gives it up because obviously no one cares. And she moved back to England, and she marries this guy named Richard Baker. And they have a kid named Mary.
Mary Baker.
After herself. They used to do that a lot. It was so dumb. Yeah. Mary Ann.
Dudes keep doing that, right? She's just Mary Baker the second. Mary Baker Jr.
Yeah. Ugh. I can't. That's too much. That's too many Marys. Like, anyway, so in the late 1830s, this is like 15 years, almost 20 years after she washed up on shore.
Princess Caraboo.
Yeah. She was earning money by, you want to guess?
Baking.
Worse.
Eating.
Selling leeches.
That was my next guess, clearly. Selling leeches.
She would go outside hospitals and sell them leeches.
Leech for you, Governor.
Which is, by then, people kind of knew it didn't work. But
I was going to say, by that point, was it no longer like a thing?
They hadn't quite reached that like Charles Darwin era of like, this is BS, you know? But they were still like, well, maybe. I'm saying as if I know.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to sling some leeches to feed your kid that's named after you.
She did this job for 30 years.
Whoa! I'll tell you one thing. This woman's dedicated to what she does.
She is. She never
committed to the gag, and then she committed to selling leeches. She's kind of like a...
She's probably brilliant. Like,
yeah.
A genius. Like, how do you convince people? I mean,
that's like a serious commitment to potentially just a gag, right? A bit. Yeah. That's how long in total was she Princess Caraboo? Because that's also a lot of places to go to.
She gave up around mid-1820s, so about less than 10 years.
But 10 years almost of just being a fake person.
She kept, and here's the thing: she didn't change her act. That was her problem. She needed to make it. Okay, so here's after selling leeches for 30 years, she
got a golden leech.
She's a factory. She invites children.
Yeah.
And then she dies after she falls.
Just randomly. I think we're just laughing at her for falling.
Pretty normal for older people to fall, and it'd be really, really devastating.
Really terrible, yeah.
So she died in 1864, and her daughter took over the leech business.
Okay.
And she kept selling leeches outside of hospitals until 1900.
Whoa!
So for the next, but she lived alone. Marianne never married. She lived alone in a house full of cats. That's what the article said. It was she was like a cat hoarder.
Oh my God.
And then in 1900, she died in a fire.
Where? Like in the house with all the cats?
I think it was in the house.
Did one of the cats set it on fire?
One of the cats was like, I'm done with this.
I can't live with the leech lady anymore.
I can't look at one more leech.
How many leeches were you looking at?
No, well, she died in a house fire, and that is the end of that family line. But
dear Lord.
So that was, she kind of fooled a bunch of people. And I admire her dedication.
Yeah, the commitment to the bit is admirable. That's tough.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're a really good performer or an actor. Find a friend who's a good writer. Combine your forces. That's what you need. She couldn't write.
And start a podcast.
Yeah, start a podcast. Basically, she was the Daniel Day-Lewis of her time in terms of just being full on method, but she just didn't have a director like Paul Thomas Anderson to put her in the role of her life. It's a shame.
Also, everyone hated theater people back then.
As opposed to now where theater people are revered. Where everyone loves them. We do love you, theater people. Thank you.
No, really. I was one of you.
I was amongst one of you for many years.
What?
Or I was amongst all of you for years, yes.
That's right.
Remember that other podcast I used to do? It's about musicals. It's the second time I brought it up in this episode.
Mm-hmm. Go listen to it.
Yeah.
New episodes next week.
Totally. Yeah, you barely even listen to your own episode, which is my favorite part.
I was on that the musical splaining podcast. I listened to half of my episode.
You're like, this Hannah Hillen person, not for me. Not really interested.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my story.
Mary Baker, right?
Mary Wilcox Baker.
Mary Wilcox Baker, the multi-generational leech slanger and performance artist, renowned around the world.
A leechmonger. Wouldn't that be more?
Leechmonger.
Yeah.
Leeching off.
Resume.
Yeah, right.
I was a leechmonger for 60 years.
60 years. Put that on her LinkedIn.
Yeah. Actually, it was 30. LinkedIn.
30 years.
Leached in. That's a bad one. That's a bad one.
Linked out. Amazing. Anyway. That was great. That was quite the ride.
Yeah.
That had a lot of twists and turns.
What was yours?
What was the what did you say? He was a Portuguese sailor or pirate or something? What was that guy's name? Manuel? That guy.
Yeah.
I want to know where that guy went.
I'll see if I can find him.
See, she should have just paired up with him. That guy knew how to write.
He immediately got on that. He's like,
immediately.
Here we go.
They should just let him out of prison and just allowed them to flourish.
Manuel and Mary. I almost called her Sarah because everyone was named Sarah or Mary. Still is.
Yeah, it's true. My wife is.